So strap in and get ready.
The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Mattrix, and Whisperer.
Yes, you are. Welcome back. We are live for the first live of the season. It's week one of the preseason, the preseason challenge. It's in the books. And tonight we're going to unpack it all for you on the SC Brain, joined by my co-host, SC Mattrix, SC Whisperer. Boys, Matty, how you going, mate? You had a little bit of a time away from the pod last week. We had to go as a duo and it just didn't feel the same without you.
Mate, I tell you what, I didn't feel the same without you guys. It was probably due to about the 40 beers watching the Super Bowl. I was a mess. Got back from the Cass after midnight on Sunday. Got back from the Valley after midnight. I lost my voice somewhere between Caxton Street and the Valley. So thanks to the guys that mailed it back in. Got it about Thursday. So yeah, happy with that.
Love that. And Josh, we got a photo of him on the beers at, what was it, 9 o'clock in the morning?
And that's 8 o'clock his time as well. He's an hour behind us. So it was a big weekend to be a bloke named Mattrix, but it's good to have him back, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, of course, we'll dig into things very soon, but the show is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, Ryan from Astute Newstead, and Bonus Bank. We'll give them a shout out throughout the show. And, you know, because it is the first live, drop your questions below. If you have any questions from the weekend or from the footy that we've just watched, drop them in. Any questions, I guess, about your team and how that's facing as well. We'll do our best to get to all the questions throughout the show. And obviously, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're one of the OGs, welcome back. Hit that like button, follow, review, do all those things if you're listening to us on audio. And of course, join the Unlimited League. It's 777-141 is the code. It's a free league to join. It's not going to cost you a thing. You can win a Supercoach Champions ring, and the highest scorer every single week will get themselves a Standard Squeeze prize pack. So thanks to the guys at Supercoach Champion as well for supplying the ring. You can get your own at supercoachchampion.com. Now, Josh, I'll love to throw to you on this one because the World Cup is all yours. We've just facilitated it, I guess, but it's a cool idea, and you know, I'm guessing people want to know more about how they can get involved.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty fitting. We've had the NRL trials wrap up today, but we've also had the first batch of sort of intra-club games being played for the AFL as well. So the Insight Fantasy World Cup is pretty much just a competition to test how good you are at all four forms of Supercoach. It's going to be kicking off from NRL Round 1, which is, goodness, it's only a week and a half away with Vegas around the corner. It's going to be a collective tournament across all four sports, NRL, AFL, NBL, and BBL. Basically, collective percentage of your scores and your rankings of all four. We'll tally them up at the end of the season, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, Mattrix, but we've just finished the NBL, so it's going to run from basically February to February. Yeah, so it's gonna run for 12 months, and there's gonna be some good cash prizes. So it's $10 to enter. We'll pay the top 10 entries. We've already got a fair few in there already. People that are testing their knowledge in all four formats. I've never played AFL or NBL, so it's gonna be a nice little change up for me.
Definitely, Matty, you've obviously just wrapped up NBL as well. You want to give everybody a little bit of a chat about how that's all gone? I know you finished on a bit of a high yourself.
Oh, mate, I Stephen Bradbury'd it today. I needed Mango Mathiang. Who was it? Mango Mathiang and Tyler Harvey to score less than Justin Robinson and Todd Blanchfield. And Todd Blanchfield's the most random guy that I've had for a little while. Had his best game this week. And I tell you what, I might be, with some of the money that I won, I might be rushing out to be the only person in Queensland with a Todd Blanchfield jersey. I don't even know if his mum has one.
I'm sure his mum does have one. That'd be a lie. But yeah, nice little win there for you. I lost my NBL cash comp final because I captained Cotton. We won't get into that. It'll make me upset. But I'll tell you what we will get into. We're going to get into these preseason challenge games because there's a lot to dissect. There's a lot to talk about. And I guess it kicks off on Thursday night. The Dogs 24, they beat the Melbourne Storm, or we probably should say the reserve grade Melbourne Storm, 12. Now, Josh, you did some awesome stuff on socials over the weekend. You put together Supercoach scores on your socials.
I wouldn't say awesome.
Mate,
I tweeted cool. a lot of crap.
Yeah, that too. I just wanted to kind of pump you up a little bit, make you feel good, you know.
Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Yeah, but basically spent the entire week doing all the Supercoach scores for the weeks. We've got a fair bit of data to go through today, which is going to be nice. But yeah, the Dogs 24, the Storm 12. Straight away, that Burton-Zeri combination, I'm not too sure if that's going to be the combo that they stick with, because you've obviously got Stephen Crichton to come back, but Sherry looks really good. Out of the game for 4 years. I'm not going to say didn't miss a beat, because the first 10 minutes were a little bit rusty, but he really found his sort of feet into the game. And is he an option at 3:30 if he gets the start? It'd be on the right, which wouldn't be ideal. You'd think they'd link up with Burton, Crichton, and Addo Carr in that left.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Matty? I'll leave this one with you.
Yeah, it's got to be Burton, Crichton, and Arrow. Like, yes, it was great to see Zeri play so well, but yeah, I'm just not sure that's how it's going to roll out. And it's great to overreact after the first week. It's just great to be watching footy again, can I add? It's just great to have NRL footy back. But yeah, I suppose this is a look at if there is an injury, you can be confident putting Zeri in.
Yeah, I think everybody probably saw the score and they go, oh shit, he scored a try, he looked good. And then they see 27% of people own him and they're like, fuck, I probably should add this guy. And he's 345k, so he's nice and cheap. He probably fills a void there. He maybe is a perfect downgrade for someone that maybe didn't do too well over the weekend. But isn't it, like you said, Matty, it's perfect to overreact to week 1 of trials. I mean, when you think about it, we had guys playing one half of football. Like, we didn't see many players play 80 at all, did we, Josh? I think most of the main first grade squad played the first half, and then they rolled out the Reggies in the second half mostly.
Yeah, I mean, some of them didn't even play that. I mean, like we take Appy today, for example, he played 20 and then just came off. So, I mean, it's great to overreact. Like, that's what trials are for. Like, trials are to get you hyped up and to get you overreacting. Like, there's players we never looked at that have sort of entered my team, but we'll run through all the notes from the Bulldogs and then we can dissect the relevant players. Farmasu looks really good in his first stint. I don't think he gets huge minutes to be relevant. Definitely one to watch for trials week 2. The Marnie trap, all 3 of us got sucked in last year. We might get sucked in again. He had a nice try assist. Was looking good. I think he made 27 tackles in the first half, which is nice to see, and only had 3 or 4 misses, which is good for Reid Marnie standards. Pat not goal kicking. That's the really big talking point out of this. Some people are saying, oh, what's the point of him goal kicking? You'd think if he was to be the main goal kicker for round 1, you'd want to be getting reps in. It's all well and good to be, in training when there's no crowds, but you want to be kicking under pressure. I think Meaney probably takes the role, especially for the first 5 or 6 weeks, and then maybe Pap gets eased in. But if Meaney's hitting them well, then what's the point for Pap kicking? Sam Hughes, he's the star. We'll chat about him in detail after. But the man he was competing with, Liam Knights, I think we can put a big red line through him straight away. 3 drop balls in his first 3 carries. Just looked like he was doing too much. And you find that with these guys that are on the fringe, they want to come in and make a big impact, but it just wasn't Liam Knight's night. Gets to go home to Danica Mason, though, so he is the real winner. Jarrell Skelton is an absolute stud. We've seen him for the last couple of years. He is definitely one to watch. He is still green. He's a rugby prospect, but there's a world where when Addo Carr's contract is up, do the Dogs just move off him? And because you've got a guy like Skelton there as well. Karaz didn't play, but Blake Wilson looked really good on the wing, which then begs the question, does Karaz play centre, which would drastically diminish his Supercoach prospects? And the Dogs overall looked really clunky in attack. I mean, until Sexton came on, but they were playing against, C-grade side, so I don't want to take too much from that second half. But it's going to be a good battle. Hutcho steered them around well. Sexton looked really good when he came on, so it's definitely one to watch. But boys, Sam Hughes, he was the star of the show. It's now got people talking about, hey, is Sam Hughes a viable front row forward too? And that's the question I want to put to you, Braino. Is it too risky if you can go pretty much a gun in every other position?
Oh, that's such a hard question, isn't it? We've talked a lot about the low upside and high upside positions, and obviously you want to pay up in fullback, halfback. You can even have an argument that you can pay up in centre wing for at least one gun. But front row, I mean, you've made some good points, Josh, on socials and in conversations that we've had where the gap between guys like your Robson or even Brendan Hands and Harry Grant is a much smaller gap, really, isn't it? Just because it's such a low upside position. And it's the same with front row forward. What's the gap between a Thomas Flegler and Payne Haas? It's maybe 20, 15 points, but it's about $300,000. So that becomes the question. What's he priced? 238, I think it is. Hughes.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. Like if you look at someone like a Flegler and you project him for a 50 for mid 400s, you look at Sam Hughes, you can project him for a 40 at 230. It's like, don't look. I've said this multiple times in the podcast. Don't look at him as a starter. Just look at him as the 17th option. Like if he's getting you 40, 45 points at 230k, that's amazing. The issue lies if he gets injured, then a Wilson has to come on or a Fafita has to come on. That's the dilemma. I think his output's going to be perfectly fine for a front row forward too. It's just how much depth do you have to cover him if he eventually goes down?
The issue isn't like whether I'm getting Sam Hughes. The issue is I need to pick 3 other front row forwards as well. Like Sam Hughes has been one of the first added, and yeah, comparing it to Flegler, maybe it's not good, but like maybe I just need somebody fucking mid right now. Like I don't know. Like maybe I just need somebody that's going to get 50 and get in there, because in all fairness, I'd Payne Haas, and there's some things that happened in the Tigers game today that I've had to rip my team apart, which we'll have a chat about a bit later.
We talk about the upside from like a cheapy front row forward to Payne Haas, and it's maybe 30 points. We talk about the price or the points difference between someone like a Jack Bostock today, who played nearly the full game with a try and only scored 46, and a Greg Marzu, who can pump out 80 doing nothing. And that's the dilemma. It's like, well, can I sacrifice on front row forward in order to get a Marzu, to get a Val Holmes, to get, maybe not a Sarko being outside of Herbie, but you know what I mean? Like these top tier guys can just go off for 130 any moment, and Payne Haas just doesn't do that. And if you look down at Payne Haas at the end of a Thursday night or a Friday night and you go, cool, Payne Haas got 80. That's nice. It gives you 0 movement. Like it's nice, but when Marju scores 3 tries and goes for 160, it's like, well, that is what gives me the movement.
As a Broncos fan, it gives me a bit of movement.
I think you're going to get the 75 to 90 from Payne Haas more often than not, but you're not going to get the 120. You're not going to get the 140. Whereas, Marju, you will. And those high upside guys, you will. So, I'm on board with the cheap front row forward, cheap hooker debate. I think it's more just a matter of which one. And there's so many fucking question marks now.
Can you go both? Can Brendan Hands be your hooker 1 and Sam Hughes be your front row forward 2? And you just have Cleary, Hines, Brown, Turbo, Ponga, Walsh, and then, Val and maybe Marzu. Like that's the thing. It's the prawn team. Just get rid of the head, and you've got a star-studded team apart from that.
I'm going to say you can. I reckon it could be a decent option, especially if you're making those points up elsewhere. You've just got to obviously use your cash well down the bottom with your cheapies, and make sure you get those cheapies right, because you're going to need cash to upgrade those front row forwards and hookers eventually. You're not going to want to run cheap all year.
Some other relevant scores before we wrap up with this game. Max King, 28 points in about 22 minutes. Really, really impressive to see from him. Jaden Salmon scored 31. Now, that's not the talking point. The talking point is he looked really good, and that bodes some concern for Josh Curran. So I think trial week 2 will be a big test for Curran, and he's no longer as must as what I think a lot of people would have thought. But apart from that, there was no other real talking points. Sherry 61 and a Skelton 61, but both those guys are outsiders for round 1, and Reed Marnie with a 46 just at halftime. That included a line break assist and a try assist. But on the Storm side, boys, there's not too much to talk about that isn't Ryan Pappenhausen, who had a nice 52, a try, still looked rapid. I think they tracked his speed. It was like 90% of what he got his top speed in 2021. But there's no goal kicking. That's a real kick in the teeth. We've discussed on this podcast at length about how poor the Storm's draw is. But when you're looking at all these other top guns and a Pappy at a 600k, you're like, fuck, can we just do it to ourselves?
I'll tell you what, when that little chip went over for Pappy and you just see this little whippet running through and just outdoing everyone at pace, it's like, could we see what we've seen previously, what we know Pappy's capable of? But then you just got to remember the injuries that he's had in the last 2 years. Like, fuck, I just need to see more. I hope he stays fit. And he's definitely going to be an option, but that draw is just way too volatile for me. They've got some brutal matchups. I'm just hoping he drops some cash. Imagine if we could get Pappenhausen in the 500k mark after their bye.
We've said this. The draw turns in round 9, and we never want to wish injury upon anyone. But if Turbo happens to go down in round 8, it's a very, very tasty swap.
It would be, yeah. We won't talk about injuries too early on, but yeah, definitely keeping an eye out on opportunity when it pops up. Boys, before we touch on the Indigenous versus Maori game, a big shout out for Insight Unlimited. It's finally here. We've done a lot of work in the background to make sure that this is ready to go. So it gives you exclusive access to the team at Insight Fantasy Sports. So not just us, but it gives you access to all of the other sports that we do, all of the other podcasts as well. You get access to our thoughts on final trades. You get captains, exclusive member Q&As as well. So we're going to be coming into the Discord and we're going to be answering all of your team questions in the lead up to every single round and a ton more stuff. And this isn't just NRL, like I mentioned, AFL, NBL, BBL, as well as NBA. And it only costs you $25 for the whole year. So definitely jump on board there, and you can jump into the Discord for free as well and get involved in the community. And if it's something you'd like, then you can hit us up. So definitely get involved. Now, boys, Indigenous versus Maori, obviously this was a game that we'd probably more often than not see relatively full-strength teams, obviously not playing for their clubs, but playing in a pretty competitive environment, right, Matty? So we'd expect some pretty good football to be played, but it was kind of a little sloppy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was wet. Like, you're seeing the ball getting dropped. You're seeing the forwards probably shine here. Due to that being the way that you should play this footy. As soon as they pushed it out to a winger or a center or whatever, the pill just got spilled. Turned into really messy. I was excited for football to be back after the Bulldogs, and I think I said in about the 60th minute, I was like, I'm enjoying seeing all my old mates out there again, but really not quality footy was played on Friday night.
And I guess were people really enjoying good old Tricky Trindle taking a little bit more of the shine away from Nicho Hynes? I think that's probably the one big question, isn't it, Josh? So, everybody's looking at how involved Braden Trindle was and how much ball he was taking away from Nicho in this one.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of overreaction happening here. I mean, the way you read Twitter, people were talking about Nicho Hynes like he was Brendan Wakeham. Nicho Hynes still finished with 70 points. Like, he still had 27 tackles. He had 1 try assist. He was kicking goals. That's the main thing. We saw last year that he had that injury and was kicking, and Trindle took over the goal kicking, but Hynes was kicking over Trell. He was kicking over Trindle. But yeah, a little bit of clunky footy. That's sort of to be expected when you have a rep game with a week worth of camp. Not taking too much out of it. A lot of these fantasy relevant guys, Adam Elliott, Josh Curran, Jesse Arthurs, like all these guys were out of position. But the question I want to pose to you two boys is, do we go to the casino and play some Ricky Roulettes? Because Joey Tarps looked unreal.
Can you, I mean, is he going to score a try every week? No. What did he end up scoring? He scored 80 odd, 90 odd, didn't he?
80 fantasy points. And that was very, very similar to Supercoach. So there wasn't some official scoring done, and I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention, but offloading at will, had the try, had really good running meters, but he's probably a touch expensive. If you had the dual, you didn't have the dual this year, but if you had that, it'd be much more tempting. I'd rather pay the extra for him over than a Cotter, for example.
Yeah, it's just the cash, isn't it? The extra 100K or whatever it is that you're going to have to pay to go from Cotter to Tarpany is 100K that you're probably going to need with the lack of cheapies that we've started to see lately. So yeah, not ideal. But I put a tweet up. Or should we call it a tweet anymore? I put a post up on X saying Latrell was going to come out and brain it and going to have a big one, because he does. He usually turns up for the Indigenous team, and he was very quiet, and I kind of have to eat my words on that one. But, I mean, he walked away from this game with a knee injury as well. Is there any news on – have we heard any news on that, Matty, at all?
No, I haven't seen anything on it. To be completely honest, he just looked a little disengaged. I did see him limp off, but he was back 5-6 minutes later. Like, looks like he was out there trying to get involved. But yeah, just where he goes through these stretches where he does look disengaged, it's just worrying to see it this early on in the season.
Yeah, like, and for the Indigenous team too. Yeah, it's usually a game that he turns up for. So yeah, a little bit concerning, but with so many fullback options, it's not overly stressful unless you've drafted him last week and you did your draft a little bit early and you've got him sitting there in your fullback spot in draft. So, but Jesse Arthurs, Matty, while I've got you here, is an interesting conversation because he looked pretty ordinary and he did, like Josh said, he played at fullback. He's not going to play fullback for the Broncos. But you've got to take something from the eye test in this game, don't you? He just looked a little bit kind of lost and out of place and struggled to find his way into the game.
Well, look, I don't know how much he was playing. Like, I haven't seen him play a lot of footy before I saw him roll into the Broncos team when Corey Oates got injured. But he's never looked like a fullback. I'm sure they were trying something. Maybe Latrell did have a little bit of an injury early. Oh, no, sorry. He's on the Maori team. My bad. But, like, maybe he just... I don't really understand why he was playing at fullback anyway. He's never really looked like a fullback, a competent winger. But, yeah, I honestly don't know what they were doing. Looked out of place there. Look, put him on the wing. He's a really good winger. And I think at 370K, I'll still be rolling with him in round one.
What about yourself, Josh? Is he a guy that you had in your team, or is he now out of your team off the back of this?
I haven't actually had him for probably 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not out of the question. We saw that side of the Broncos field look really good today in the trial. Cobbo looks really good at centre, and Walsh is just electric. So definitely not out of the question. I'm probably more interested in Josh Curran, who made 39 tackles in 58 minutes on an edge, which is really impressive. If he can, I expect that input to be matched in the middle at 13. Playing 60 minutes. That's the role that I'm hoping for him. I don't expect an 80-minute edge role, but if we can get 60 in the middle, that would be amazing. He looks really good. I was actually pretty high on the cheese until I saw Connor Watson in the trial, which leaves that spot sort of more up in the air. Jack Howarth looked really good. I can't believe we actually saw him for the first time, a real footy player. But he looked really good on the edge, but there's reports coming out today that he's struggling to adapt to the Storm system, which is weird because the Storm signed him to a $2 million deal over 4 years. So time will tell. I think Sean Blaw's got that spot. We saw Trent Liero roll out to the middle for the Storm in their trial as well. So seems like it's a Sean Blaw spot, but we'll monitor that one. But the big one, boys, Xavier Willison, obviously hugely touted out of the Broncos, had I think 63 points in 27 minutes for Supercoach. So that included a try and a line break right at the end, like a consolation piece. But he had the best PPM out of all qualifying players last year in Supercoach at a 1.53. I don't think these attacking stats are outliers for him because he is so big. We saw the same thing with Takoa from the Broncos today, like just big guys that they're going to use at the line. But, we saw the Sam Hughes show the night before, and that got everyone thinking, all right, well, can we run him as a front row forward too? The performance of Wilson's just sort of reaffirmed that stance that you can run him as a front row forward 2, and Wilson just can roll out and be your front row forward 3. If he gets 30 minutes, I'd project 40 points. Yep. And it's like far out, man. That's a pretty good safety blanket to have.
I had him in my team maybe 4 weeks ago. And then I ended up moving down to like a Liam Henry and Sam Hughes, obviously. They're kind of like 230K. So I moved down to those guys, but I tell you what, like he looked good, didn't he? Matty, you kind of threw some stuff up on X and you were questioning whether he was going to be in this rotation. And I think there still is some question marks. But it more comes down to just how deep that forward pack is at the Broncos and, are the minutes there for him, do you think?
I think the way that Twitter, X, whatever, was talking about him was that he was going to take Flegler's role, which is definitely not that. We're going to see Corey Jensen step up and take that spot. We're going to see, we're not going to see Willison in the middle or anything like that. But I do think that there's a bench spot for him, whether it's 25, 30 minutes, hopefully can go up to 35. I'm really high on Willison. He's such a big body, doesn't make too many mistakes, just a battering ram. But yeah, I need to probably see 30 minutes from him. But honestly, right now, better than what was the cheapie from the Liam Henry? Like better than Liam Henry. There's more security there. I'd rather run with Willison than something like that. It's worth the 40K to me.
Yeah, also you competed with Marty Tapau, who is no spring chicken. The Fletcher Baker hype seemed to cool off dramatically. And I know that Dequora is really good. He was really good today, but he is still so young and so raw. We saw how long they held back Piakora. We've heard about Willison for 2 or 3 years now. Like they've held back these juniors until, even Ezra Mann. We heard about Ezra Mann for 2 or 3 years until he finally hit the scene. So I think that the Coras are going to be held back a little bit, and Marty is no spring chicken. He's no longer Marty Manley. And yeah, you're really competing with Fletcher Baker as probably that first prop off the bench. I'm finding it, I'm talking myself into the idea of running a mid-price front row forward and then 3 cheapies, because if for whatever reason Hughes goes down and you have to play, or even on a buy, like if I say to you, hey, Wilson's going to get you 40 and you got to play him, you're not going to be like, oh, that's the worst. Like, that's fine. Like, you're like, sweet, at a buy, when I'm at a pinch, like, I'll happily take that. So he looked really good. But apart from that, yeah, the Hines and Trindle debate, I think people are overreacting slightly. Let's remember that Hines still averaged 83 points last year. That's without goal kicking for 33% of that sample size, and that's with a 22 versus Penrith, and everyone scores 22 versus Penrith. Like, I think we need to cool the jets a little bit, because the same people were doubting Hines in round 4. The same people had egg on their face when he scored 180. I think Hines regresses, but I don't think it's enough to be like, man, he's a bum. Like I said, people are treating him like he's Brandon Wakeham out here. Like, come on.
I think people are now starting to get a little bit worried about cash, and they're starting to think, shit, a lot of these guys I was relying on, the Fletcher Bakers and the kind of mid-price or cheap options, didn't really turn up or didn't do what they were hoping they'd do this weekend. So people are probably thinking, oh, I can actually downgrade Hines to Ezra Mam, and I can go and I can downgrade Hines to Aiden Caesar, and that plan's out the window now. So like they're just kind of fishing for cash, really, aren't they?
Just downgrade Grant. Like, we've now got a viable option at hooker that can average close to 70 for 200k less. Just do that. Don't be drastic.
Yeah, 100%. And Trindle walked away from this game with a shoulder concern. So it'd be interesting to see what happens from that.
Also, yeah, like people are talking about Trindle as an option. Trindle averaged 46 points with Hines last year. Trindle played the game of his life. Trindle played amazing. He had 2 try assists. He scored 49 points. Like, he got the man of the match. People are like, oh my God, is Trindle the option? Like, Jaden Campbell's out. He's the man. He played amazing. He didn't even crack 50. Like,
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Definitely not a person I'm looking at this year. I think it's just Cleary and Hines, and it'll stay that way. But we've got some Saturday and Sunday games. We've got actually 7 games across the last 2 days. Fuck, how good was that? That was awesome.
It was a big weekend, boys.
Very, very big weekend. Before we go through to that and have a chat about those games, guys, if you're sick of breaking glass bottles, you're accidentally sinking triple shots like Mattrix because you can't measure it pour properly, your beer goes warm, maybe your coffee gets cold in the morning, the Standard Squeeze have everything covered for you to drink responsibly, but also conveniently. They're food grade quality plastic, fantastic 4-in-1s that keep all your drinks cold, all your coffees warm. You can go to the website, thestandardsqueeze.com, and use the code INSIGHT15 to get yourself 15% off everything in store. Now, the Sharks copped the battering. As expected, when we saw the team lists for this game, the Knights are rolling out a lot of guys competing for spots. They had Hastings, and then the Sharks basically rolled out their reserve grade team or some guys that are looking for fringe spots here. And it wasn't pretty in the end, Matty. 44-18 to the Knights. What stood out for you in this one?
Was pretty happy that I was on the Knights. It was my bet in Punk Club this week, so that was great. But probably Gamble, Hastings, Cogger, like that's a little bit of a chat that I think that we always need to have a chat about. I really like Hastings. His kicking game was great. Is Cogger better than Gamble is probably the question.
Yeah, I think
the
with
yes.
I think you don't, with the Knights, you don't need a 6 and a 7. Like the Knights, you can just run 2 7s because KP can do fucking plenty for you. And I think Cogger's the real deal. I think Cogger's a long-term 7, but Hastings still serves a purpose and he can direct the team around well. He's experienced enough. And Cogger can just do what Cogger does. Like, he was great. And I think with KP at the back there, you can run both of them. So it's a good problem to have if you're Adam O'Brien.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, 2 words. Dylan Lucas has now kind of probably made his way into God knows how many teams after that performance. He got turned in by Hastings for his first try, got put in 1-on-1 and just did it easy, kind of barreled over the top of him there. And then he caught a Hastings chip for the second. So, I mean, Hastings was best on ground in the first half. He was outstanding. But I'll tell you what, Dylan Lucas was quality as well. They come up with a really good combination there in that first half. Now, does the pressure become kind of more evident now on Kai Pearce-Paul, who was said to be that left edge back rower or kind of the guy that they were looking at to be that guy this year? We've been high on him all preseason, Josh, haven't we? And now it kind of creates more question marks, doesn't it?
I'm being torn between two places because I was high on Dylan Lucas, I'm high on Kai Pearce-Paul. I got to be higher on one of them, but we said this about Dylan Lucas. We said he had attacking upside. We said he scored really nice attacking stats in his 5 starts last year, and he did it again this week. I'm getting a lot of chat about where to play him. His value is 0 at 2RF. It's all at centre wing. I'm not picking him in my 2RF. His value is at centre wing. But yeah, I think it does, really. We had the Dylan Lucas hype at the start of the preseason because KPP was going to be out, but now it looks like he's going to be right to go and play some trial footy. It's going to be really interesting to see how Adam O'Brien lines up next week in week 2. Like, you would expect Kai Pearce-Paul to probably get the start and have like just a shootout. But yeah, I mean, Lucas was fantastic in this game, as was Hastings as well. Like, both guys I'm probably not keen on. I'm probably not keen on Lucas just because of KPP being back. It does throw spinners into the works, but yeah, really good game from him.
You did flat out ask Jacko Hastings on Twitter about Kai Pearce-Paul, and he did say to be a little bit patient with Kai Pearce-Paul.
I'll find the exact quote while you stall. But yeah, if anyone that wasn't following, I said to Jackson Hastings, "Hey, how good's Kai Pearce-Paul?" And I'll find the quote for you.
Yeah, something about helicopter dick, wasn't it?
Oh mate, that was
good from Mattrix.
I was more saying about the fact that he said to be patient, which maybe says that Dylan Lucas gets the start the year.
So at SC Whisperer posted, "Hey Jackson Hastings, can you confirm if Kai Pearce-Paul is the greatest English import to play for the Knights in the back row of all time?" And he said, "I can confirm that he is going to be unbelievable, but everyone should be patient with him. He's got a pretty unique gift." And then at SC Matrix said, "Helicopter dick?" ?
Standard
Standard
Mattrix on X.
But yes,
Yep.
The term "be patient" is, you can take that 2 ways. It can be he'll start, but don't expect the world straight away, or he's going to be a little bit. But hopefully we see some trials from him next week.
Yeah, I definitely urge people to be cautious in taking on Dylan Lucas in round 1, because we just don't even know whether we're going to get to round 3 and it's going to be Kai Pearce-Paul ready to go. So yeah, definitely proceed with caution there.
I think KPP, if he starts, like if Lucas is named on the bench, KPP is still cheap enough that you can just run with it, but it's not vice versa because Lucas is 550. It's just slightly different there.
Yeah, that's right. And the Lucas duel is so good, but it's Kai Pearce-Paul or probably another option from another team.
Boys, do we get a 200k centre wing cheapie? Armstrong was unbelievable. We thought Jenkins had the lock on that wing jersey, but like Armstrong was unbelievable, and a lot of Knights fans rate him.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you got to feel for Jenkins a little bit. He had a bit of a stinker to start the game. He dropped a couple of real easy ones. The handling errors in this game were ridiculous. Like, it was just nearly impossible to watch the first 20 or 30 minutes of this game, but it is preseason, so you kind of take it with a grain of salt. But Armstrong was outstanding.
Not in the game yet.
I mean, there's a few that
can't put him in.
Nah, I was looking for Braden Burns the other day after he went over in the corner there, and I thought, fuck, where's Braden Burns in the app? Couldn't find him. Probably still 650k from last year.
We've reached that point of the preseason where we're looking at guys that aren't even fucking game.
Yeah, there's always it was always going to happen. Kale Iro though, the last talking point. I think he passed the eye test. He was fantastic. He just didn't go looking for the ball as much as I'd like. Like, he didn't really get himself involved in the game. You know, those centers, those young fellas like your Isaac Tungos and guys like that just go searching for the ball. He kind of just sat on his edge and just hoped the ball had come to him, which, is a little bit of a concern.
Bit of Zach Lomax about that. Lomax is a notorious just wait for it to come to me, and that's great if you're a strike player. But Iro is still quite young. I don't think he did himself the world of favors to get the jersey round 1. He's still got a lot of errors in him.
Yeah, fuck, he's a good, powerful runner of the ball, though. He just got that kind of Talakai mold, that big body, doesn't he? And I mean, Talakai is probably one of the better handling centres and passing centres in the game at the moment, so that might save his position. Getting Mulatalo involved on that left edge more often than not. So I guess you're losing that ball playing if you're moving Talakai into the middle or onto the bench. But I mean, if we see him line up round one, you've just got to have him. So that's a pretty easy conversation to have. Boys, should we move on? Roosters 36, Manly 22 in this next one. I tell you what, though, the Roosters look bloody clunky, and Manly should be pretty happy that they walked away only losing by 14 when they rolled out their reserve grade team.
Yeah, this
What
was
do you
just
thought,
Roosters.
Matty?
This is Roosters versus Blacktown Workers, wasn't it? Like the Roosters didn't look good in this game. Like the scoreline does not reflect this game at all.
Yeah, no, it was awful. Is there anything to take? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of question marks around this back row, Matty. And that rotation, obviously, we're not going to find out what's going on there with the trials either, are we? It's more we're just looking at an eye test from these big boys.
Yeah, turn me off all of them. Angus Crichton, as a massive fan of Angus Crichton, doesn't look like he should be in the top 17, honestly.
Yeah, red line straight through, unfortunately.
Looked awful. May was exciting, but like Yasua Wongs and everything, fine. Like they were all good. Your Butcher, like good, but like you've got your Radleys, like what, he's still going to play 55 minutes, you would think. It's hard to think about how any of these guys are going to be impactful for Supercoach with only having so many minutes to go around. Like Tupanua was the best on park, really, at times, and nobody was looking at him. We're all looking at, your Yasua Wongs and your Crichtons. I don't know. Like, it just makes me put a line through all of them.
Oh, I was going to say, if we're talking up Kai Pearce-Paul at like 340 with uncertainty around minutes, can we get behind Tupanua at 390? Because he was good. Like, Tupanua was a stud. Like, we've seen that 2 years ago. And yeah, I think Crichton's played himself out of any consideration. I think Nat Butcher has got one of them on lockdown because Robbo just loves some consistency, and Nat Butcher gives you that. But Tupanua was great. And at 390, that's probably the best. Like, yeah, people are like, oh, Crichton. Obviously, Crichton's got the best ceiling out of everyone if we can get back to his best, but I'm losing hope. I was sitting here on the Roosters podcast and just touting how much I love Crichton, but I am losing hope. I don't know about you boys, but
it's gone.
Sad, isn't it? Yeah, it's sad. I mean, and there was word that he was training the house down in the preseason and everything was going great. And
if anyone says you're training the house down, you can't ever go against that. Like, that's just gospel at this stage.
Yeah, that's right. But no, I mean,
Herbie Farnworth said that Flegler was training the house down. Can I say?
Yeah, good to know. We'll hold that comment for later. But
Ben Hunt also said Viliami Fafita was training the house down as well. So
good.
Tell me you put him straight in your team after that comment.
100%. Ownership skyrocketed.
Yeah.
We were sitting here criticizing his like 25% ownership, being like, what are people doing? And now we all own him.
Yeah, that's why. Hey, I love preseason. It's good.
But just quickly, sorry, people are talking about Sam Walker being a downgrade from Hines. I just don't see it with the Roosters draw or the Roosters performance. Like, yes, they scored 36 points, but that was against Manly C, D, and E sides. Like, not great. Looks like I can't remember. Is it Paseka or Sipley's going to be out for a month with the crusher on Dom Young, who's going to be out for Vegas round 1.
Yeah, Sipley.
Talon May was really good off the bench, I thought. Like, I think with Talon May, you have to mentally, get over. Sorry, Terrell May, my apology. Tyrone, chucking him in there as well. Own all of them.
Teammate. Yeah, good.
Yeah, just the teamos. I think you got to get over the psychological barrier that you might be faced with having to play him round 1 off the bench. I don't think that's going to be an issue. Like, if he gets the minutes, we've always said if he gets some minutes, he'll be a stud. The minutes are a big concern. But you probably have to understand that you're picking him off the bench because I just don't think Robbo is going to start him. And that's fine. But you need to get over that hurdle of being like, well, this guy's going to come off the bench.
I hate it. Hate it so much. I hate picking my starting front row forwards off the bench. I mean, and notoriously, it just doesn't happen throughout previous seasons. You're always picking guys that are starting for the most part anyway. But this guy, his PPM is so good. him and Xavier Willison kind of in the same mold of player, and that they just rack up points so quickly that you don't need 40 to 50 minutes for these guys. You can get away with a 30-minute stint and they walk away with 55 points. So, yeah, it is a risk. Absolutely a risk. But again, if you're looking at going cheap in front row forward, like we are and like we've spoken about, then it might be a decent punt. So
I'll tell you what, I'm glad the Roosters draw is as bad as it is, because I was slowly getting sucked into the Tedesco trap. He looked good. He looked really good. But you look at that Roosters draw and you're like, I just can't do it. But he looked good. Like if you're in draft, like a late second round pick on Teddy, like sign me up. 13
runs, 150 meters. I mean, that's kind of what you expect from Teddy more often than not, isn't it? And last year we didn't really get as much of that. 55 Supercoach points, though. You'd be pretty happy with a short little stint from Teddy there. And it's good to see in the preseason he's starting to get some Ks in his legs early. So plenty of positives in that one. Manly, though, anything to take from Manly? I mean, we were looking at Burbo basically in this one, and he really didn't do too much or play really any more than 40 minutes. So you can't really take too much from that, can you, Matty?
No, and like as one of the more experienced blokes out there, I sort of expected him to have a really big one, and he didn't. Look, I'm not going to say draw a line through him, because other people are, better players around him could create a little more for him. But yeah, look, right now, probably a no for Burbo, but this was a scratch match for Manly. Like basically nobody
meant nothing
really that's going to play outside of, like Paseka and Sipley might get a bench spot. Like,
Like as much as we joke about Burbo scoring 3 tries last week, it was against a bunch of children. And then this week he was playing with children. Like this game for me is just a write-off for Manly. Like it's whatever. Like I'm not too fussed over it. Like assets I'm looking at, I'm not put off by this game.
Yeah. We can move on from this one. Before we do, though, give a shout out to Ryan from Astute Newstead. So the question becomes: Are your home loan rates above 6.2%? If you want to buy your first home, you can reach out to Ryan at Astute Newstead for an obligation and cost-free inquiry. All you need to do is click the link in the description, go to his link tree. Hammond's Home Finance is the link. Use the code INSIGHT to let him know that we sent you. It won't cost you a thing, and you can find out everything that you need to know from him. I'm going through that process with him at the moment. I know you have, Matty, in the past, where you're either trying to sell or you're trying to refinance or you're trying to extend your house or do renos or whatever it be. So Ryan looked after me and got my interest rate down and definitely helped me out. So hit him up and it won't cost you a thing. That's the beauty of it as well, I think, with brokers like Ryan, is that they get paid by the banks. So they don't take fees out of you. They get paid by the banks to refer. So definitely doesn't cost you anything, which is great. Now, we've got the third Saturday game. We've got the Raiders 38 beat the Eels 16. And I tell you what, I never thought I'd be mentioning Wiramu Greg as the first person I was talking about for the Parramatta Eels, but fuck, he was good. 24 tackles, 14 runs, 60 post-contact meters. That guy was just a barrel. Yeah, he was fucking really good.
Wiramu Greg, Sean Kepi, get them both in.
Yeah.
Xavier Willison.
So good. Yep. No, so Wiramu Greg was good. I mean, aside from that, I guess the big eye watch really in this game was the cheapies at the Raiders, wasn't it? You got Chevy Stewart, we had KO Weeks, we're looking at Ethan Strange, Xavier Savage on the wing, I think, was probably the one that I was looking at the most. I didn't really want to take too much from Ethan Strange playing at halfback. That's not going to happen when Jamal Fogarty comes back into this team. It's basically between Strange and Weeks, whoever gets that 5'8" jersey, and it's got to be Weeks, doesn't it? What are your thoughts on this, Josh? Who gets that?
I've got more questions and answers after this game.
Yeah.
Like this has left me more fucking perplexed. Like then I don't know what to do, because like Weeks wasn't great, Strange wasn't great, Stewart wasn't great, Schiller was great. Like, has Schiller played himself into the center spot and Ricky just goes, all right, we're just going to run Chris at fullback? Like, he was good. Like, he was really good.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Great 2 years ago for me. Held him all year.
I don't know. Like I said, this game has really left me perplexed. Like, you would expect it's still Weeks that gets the 6, but like the real against, like that's locked in. But then it becomes like the fullback spot, because if Chris gets it, it just kills everything. I'm not keen on Savage on the wing for 350. I'm only keen on Stewart basically at bottom dollar at center wing availability. So more questions than answered. I think thank God the Raiders aren't having the first round bye.
Yeah, look, I don't even know. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. I think we're going to have another look next week and just see what happens there. I'm sure they're going to be working on combinations, but we are playing Ricky Roulette with about 4 cheapies at the Raiders, so it's a dangerous game to play. Brendan Hands, though. I mean, we wanted to see how involved he was going to be. We wanted to see him get some minutes, and unfortunately, due to the head knock real early on from Matt Arthur, Brendan Hands had to come back on and play more minutes than they planned him to. But he passed the eye test for me. He's a guy I could comfortably play as my starting hooker, and that's okay with me. What are your thoughts, Matty?
Yeah, I've got him. I've had him. I think that I think I'd rather him as my hooker number 2 rather than my starting hooker. But yeah, look, he'll be good for the Eels. I think he's going to start at hooker come round 1. And that's what we need to know. A starting hooker for 350k.
And
let's get on board.
So when next week the Eels play and they roll out Lussick starting hooker and he plays the majority of the game, Brendan Hands doesn't see any time, people start panicking. It's basically an audition really for the 9 jersey, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we get to Teamless Tuesday and Hands is at 9, Lussick's at 14. After everything Brad Arthur said. They both played so good. I just can't split them.
Yeah.
That's going to fucking happen. But no, look, Hands, he looks really involved. Had a try assist, had not that kicking matters in Supercoach, but like had a lot of kicks, involved kicks, was running really well. Yeah, it looks really good. I mean, like I said, he's not Harry Grant. He's not going to average 75, but if you can get you 50, then you'll take that all day long for 400k cheaper. So
yep.
Not much more to say. There's no expert analysis that we can give for a 300k hooker. It's like whoever starts, just pick them. But yeah, pretty happy with what I saw from Hands.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do we know how many minutes? So I was mowing the lawn during this one, so I was getting updates on my phone. But Sean Lane, did he play much in this one? I'm just having a look at the 14 Supercoach points. I know it was Dijon Arcee and not Dillbags there, but is there cause for concern? Week 1 of trials?
No. Looked really involved. It was just one of those ones where it's like pass the eye test, but didn't probably translate to Supercoach. Look, I put a post on Twitter today. Like, we are so blessed as footy fans that trials are as big as they are these days. 10 years ago, trials were on the back of the newspaper on Monday, and that's all you got. I'd love for Fox Sports, NRL.com, just to be a little bit more accurate with their minutes because everyone's playing 80, and that's the only downside. Like, we're getting fantasy points, we're getting Supercoach points, we're getting every fucking stat that we need apart from minutes. And I know it's hard with unlimited interchanges when people are rolling on and off. But yeah, we're going to have to go back and watch players we're really keen on. But I don't think Lane played more than, say, 25. Like, I don't remember seeing him much.
Okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think he played the first 20 through the first quarter, I think, at the drinks break that they took. And then that was kind of what we, that was the end of him. But let's move on to the Souths and Dragons, the Charity Shield, because, I mean, from what we would expect in this game, we saw kind of close-ish to what we'd expect to see in round 1 from majority of positions. I'll tell you what, though, is it Sean Keppie's season? And lucky I shouted out Ryan earlier because Ryan is Sean Keppie's number 1 fan.
That's right, from my inbox.
Yep, he's in my inbox every week.
I posted in our little group chat. I'm like, boys, I'm tempted. And Braino's reaction was, I fucking hate preseason because why is Sean Keppie coming into my thought? It's like I have an addiction and like I'm relapsing. I'm like, why am I thinking about this? Why am I thinking about Sean Keppie as being a genuine front row forward 1? He hasn't proven it in seasons gone past. He hasn't done anything to suggest so. But he looks fit and determined, and he looked really fucking good. Like he scored 44 points in about 30 minutes, and like, man, if my 2 front row forwards cost me 600k or less, and I'm getting 75 points, 80 points from them, sure, like that'll do.
Yeah, and you're making up the cash elsewhere, making up the points elsewhere, really. I mean,
is it Sean Keppie season, though? Because you've got Burgess, you've got Totola, who was fine. You've got Moali, you've got Michael Cheekham, you've got Tallis Duncan. I mean, Jai Arrow can play through the middle, and Shaq Mitchell, Indigenous All-Stars representative Shaq Mitchell. Like, there's a lot of middles at South, and it's like...
And I mean,
it's hard.
We've got to remember this game as well. You're missing guys like Shaq Mitchell too that come back into that rotation pretty much locked in. I mean, I was looking at Jai Arrow at one point going, fuck, are we looking at Jai Arrow 80 minutes on the right edge? Is this going to be a thing? You just mentioned he can rotate through the middle. So, like, there's a good chance there that he stays on the field more often than he doesn't. But, and then Totola was probably the one that I was looking at the most, thinking he's going to be the leader of this pack. Hopefully he can have a kind of injury-less season after being pretty banged up last year. And then, he was just mid, wasn't he? He looked good, but he just didn't really do much.
If we see this from Sean Keppie again next week, we've got to have a serious consideration.
Yep. He's in.
And I'm not talking front row forward 2, boys. I'm talking front row forward 1.
I can get around it.
I think like Davy and Shaq Mitchell had a great weekend as well. But I can't see them rolling out starting with either of those blokes. Like, if Keppie comes out, Shaq Mitchell comes into the team, and it's Davy and Shaq off the bench with Keppie and Totola starting, is that enough?
I'm only asking for 35 minutes from Keppie. Like realistically, if I can get, like I said, if I can get between him and, say, Hughes, 85 points for fucking 550k. Like, if I can get that, then that's sweet, I guess. Like, it's tough because if one goes down, this is the problem. Like, if on paper, if they get you 50, if they get you 80 or 90 points, that's great. Then what happens when they get benched for 15 minutes and Willison gets dropped and Liam Henry sucks? And then you're like, fuck, I need to make 3 or 4 trades to get in a Terrell May. I need to make 3 or 4 trades to get in a Max King. Like, that's the problem. Because on paper, it's a great strat.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I just don't know. I don't feel good about it, but I'm probably going to do it. I'm probably just going to roll with cheap front row forward and just hope for the best. Okay,
we need Sean Keppie to stink. We need Sean Keppie to have a Liam Knight type game next week.
What if Jai Arrow has another decent outing next week? Does he become an option? Dual position?
Yeah, Arrow was hard because he scored 19 points in about 30 minutes. And if he's playing on the right edge against Ilias, well, with Ilias, sure. They don't have anything else on that right edge to give the ball to, so you may as well give it to Arrow. And the rumours that Talis Duncan has played he's trained no edge all preseason is nice because Arrow at 440k playing 80 would be ideal. But I really hope Keppie stinks next week. So my decision is easier because if he plays like he did again, boys, we could be sitting here round 3 being like, my season's over already.
I'll tell you what, we've talked a lot, Matty, about going kind of mid-range for the 2RF. But tell me Keon Kalamatangi on the left edge doesn't entice you or excite you in some way. Imagine getting fed by Cody Walker on that Alex Johnston edge. Is there any love there for him? Can you justify spending that kind of money now that he's on the other side?
No.
Like, do you reckon he's just going to be a block runner
in Supercoach?
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe we could see him at 400k next year, which is great.
Okay, that would be
nice.
That's
bold.
He's definitely
that's hot. That's a fucking hot take. That's hotter than anything I've tweeted all weekend. Jesus Christ!
I've seen the shit you tweeted
too, and you don't even drink.
Oh mate. But yeah, I mean, I just don't see it with Keon. I just think the stocks go down because, like, what, he's going to feed Keon and Jack White's going to sit there with his hands in his pants for 80 minutes?
Yeah, it's too many mouths to feed on the left, isn't there?
Can I just say for a couple casuals, the Jai Arrow thing, like, yes, he's going to be playing second row forward, but he's front row forward dual. So we like second row forwards for scoring, and front row forward is classically a plotter position. So when you can get a second row forward that has that front row forward dual, the fact that he is a second rower that you can play in the front row for Supercoach is the appeal. We wouldn't be looking at him if he was second row forward only.
Boys, Anthony just put a good thing in the chat, which has just rejogged my memory. We're probably not going to see Sean Keppie next week because they fly out, I think, pretty soon after. So we might be going inside unseen with a 288k front row forward off one trial with no historic data to back it up.
Let's do it. Let's just embrace it. It's going to happen. I reckon.
I feel like if you do it, you've got to leave 300k in the bank just to fix it.
Yeah, I reckon honestly, no, that's probably a serious thing we need to talk about eventually is to have some cash in the bank for these after these Vegas games because fuck, it could be absolute minefield in the second TLT, and you're going to need a little bit of flexibility. So it's a pretty good shout. All right. Before we talk about the mighty Tigers and the fact that we're back, and I went looking for grand final tickets, we should give a shout out to Bonus Bank, Australia's #1 matched betting site. So you can go to bonusbank.com.au and you can use their code INSIGHT to get 25% off your first month of their premium subscription. You can make some tax-free and some risk-free money today with a few of their tutorials on there. They teach you how to do the match betting and a few other things, and it's pretty easy money, to be honest. I've done it myself. So go and check out Bonus Bank and use the code INSIGHT to get a bit of a discount to get started. Mighty Tigers, Josh, Matty, you can sit back for 5 minutes, mate, while we talk about where the grand final is going to be. 18-16 Warriors, though, on a serious note. We nearly butchered that. And to be fair, we were playing against 12 men and should have won by 30.
I think we just need to pump the brakes on some of these Tigers youngsters coming through. Because we were great. Like the first 20 minutes, we were unreal. Like we were the best team in the park. That was before the send off. Like we were just rolling over the top of them. We were really quick around the ruck. So it's really good, promising stuff for our first team. But yeah, some of these juniors, we probably just need to cool the jets on because a 12-man Warriors, nearly beat us. And I know you said let's cool the jets, but I don't know about you, but after Tigers scored that first try, I didn't know when we signed Cam Smith. I just ball playing hooker, goal kicking. I don't remember when we picked him up. But yeah, I mean, that was the talk of social media this afternoon. Like that was timeline was flooded with Api Coruscant propaganda, and I am all here for it. We sat here all preseason and we're like, I don't think we believed it. I think we said it just for the sake of saying it. We didn't actually believe it. We were like, oh man, if Api goal kicks, he must have. And then we're faced with the dilemma of Api goal kicking, and we're like, fuck, shit, we have to do this.
I'm fine with it because I had JMK in my team. I'm like, cool, free up some cash. For anybody who had Brendan Hands and Jaden Brayley.
It was a rough afternoon. It was a rough afternoon.
You have to find for $300K to get the bloke in.
Braino, there's and Matt, we'll get you back in. There's been a lot of chat around. Can the Tigers score points? Yeah, shut up. But the Tigers averaged 71 tries a season for the last 3 years, and that was when we've had 2 back-to-back wooden spoons, and we sucked. Aiden Caesar kicked at like 83%, and Api kicked at like 66% for his career. You'd think if Api's goal kicking, like surely that has to be improved. Like Caesar's not just going to give it up if he's like a pretty good goal, like above league average goal kicker. Like Api must have improved, and unfortunately, we only saw him take 2 pot shots under the sticks. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like 8 points minimum.
I think so.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, right, like Aiden Caesar's obviously getting on. He's come back to the Tigers to be, I mean, obviously he's the starting halfback, but he's probably come back to be more of a long-term mentor figure around the club. You got Latu Fainu that's going to need a lot of that kind of support in the background as he's kind of honing his game. So I feel like maybe they're looking more as a long-term option that Api could be the guy with the tee for the next however long until he finishes up, rather than have Aiden Caesar, the 32-year-old, take the tee for the next year before Latu Fainu comes in and probably takes that spot.
Well, yeah, people have mentioned Adam Dewey as well, and that's a great shout. But Adam Dewey's not back until around 15.
Mid-year.
Like Adam Dewey's still a long way away. So I think, if we talk about 10 points of value, Api's priced at a 57. With goal kicking, I think it's a 65 easy. And then is there any kind of bounce back for the Tigers? Some more creativity. We saw, a really nice ball to Alex Seyfarth. We've got John Bateman. We've got Isaiah Papali'i, Alex Seyfarth, Fanua Bolly. Like, these are good options to have at the line. So I think there is some upside for Api. The only problem is, like, are we going to see a De Silva or a Simpkin named at 14? That's the only real kick in the dick. And I don't think it's going to be a huge... Like, Api's not going to be playing 55 minutes. But it's like, does he go from, like, a 75-minute average to a 65? And that's not much, but it's, 6-7 points.
Yeah, there's your upside gone if he doesn't play those kind of minutes. I think there was 8 games last year that he kicked goals in, and he played 80 minutes in every single one of those games. So I'm really hoping that they trust in the fact that he's got the motor. But again, it's the start of the season, so I wouldn't be surprised if they have someone like a De Silva on the bench or a Simpkin to just ease into the
He
season.
still averaged 68 minutes a game last year as well. So it's not like we're going from an 80-minute hooker to a 65-minute hooker. Like he still averaged 68. So there was some cool stats getting around the average, like 70 points with goal kicking, but take that with a grain of salt because he did play 80.
At least you've still got 580k to pivot if he did, like if the worst case scenario happens and he loses 7 minutes or whatever. At least you've got, 570k to pivot to someone. If you need to go Jaden Brayley to somebody because he, God forbid, gets injured again, or they realize that Phoenix Crossland was just better in his position, 300k is hard to find somewhere to go to.
Yes.
At least 570k, you can pivot from there.
Well, that's the thing. Like if Appy, like I'm probably going to start with Appy, and I'm probably not going to panic jump off until probably round 6 or 7. Like you want to give it time to manifest. And by that stage, you hope Jaden Brayley has found minutes and fitness. So it's a pretty easy pivot. We've always been advocates of starting big and going down, unless it's front row forward where you're looking at Sean Kepi for 300k as your main man. But yeah, like start. I don't know. Like we sat here. And
Who said also, sorry, that Appy doesn't start really well? We'd keep talking about the Tigers' draw being great, right? So let's say they start okay. There's points, at least points being scored, and Appy's a really big part of that. When the Tigers are scoring points, Appy's involved in some way. And he goes up to, let's say, maybe high 600k. He averages maybe 69, 70 to start the season. And then Harry Grant, with the Storm draw, has a really kind of ordinary start to his standards, being maybe averages 57 or 58 through those first 4 or 5 games. We get to the Storm draw, we get to Appy, and maybe he loses the kicking. Who says we can't then move 50 to 100k to get Harry Grant and just hold him for the rest of the year? Because in my head, that's the kind of the perfect scenario to play it out to start.
In saying that though, like look at the Tigers' draw up until round 17. We have 2 buys and 2 bad fixtures, which I would say is the Panthers in round 7 and the Broncos in round 8. Apart from that, it's pretty smooth sailing up until round 17 when we play Melbourne. Like the draw is not terrible for the Tigers if you are buying into the narrative that there is some bounce back. And I understand, like as much as we're saying we're back, baby, and grand final bound, which is obviously true, it is still the Tigers. Like we need. It can't get worse, which is what I think. Like we averaged like 3 tries a game last year. Like I don't think that can get worse. I think we go to like 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, you scored 3 today, minutes. But
we couldn't score against fucking 12 players.
But we didn't have Justin Olam. Like we
didn't have Justin Olam.
Yeah, that's the thing. And John Bateman.
Yeah, that's right.
People complaining about having to find 300k from Brayley up to Appy should dicks out for me, because I had to find 600k because Caesar is no longer an option.
We can put the red line through Caesar.
Like honestly, like I know that we've done the halfback podcast, and if you're not listening in order and you're going back to the halfback podcast, we probably spoke for 15 minutes about that being the only viable option outside of going Cleary and Nico. I think you must go Cleary and Nico now.
None of us believed it though. None of us believed the Appy kicking? Like I put it up on social media as a bit of a fucking like.
No,
it's gonna be. But I was like, when I saw it today, I was like, oh shit, this is happening.
Yeah, it's the Grand Theft Auto gif of here we go again, fucking walking down the side of the street. Yeah. So that's Appy. This is an Appy Coruscant podcast now, by the way. Alex Seyfarth, though.
I have no idea how he didn't make the front cover.
I know. No, I didn't want to be biased because I had people say, oh, this isn't a Tigers podcast, in one of the comments on the last pod when Josh and I were just talking about the Tigers when you weren't there. So, but Alex Seyfarth is a genuine option, I think, if he gets the starting 13. At the price point, I think, 310k or something like that? Like, you've got to be picking this guy as your 2RF5 at worst case. I think you could even rely on him being your 2RF4 if you really needed to, if he gets that starting gig.
Yeah, just expect a poor score in round 1 because you're going to have 2 assets that are sitting, which is not ideal. But Seyfarth, he scored 51 in about 25 minutes, and that was with a try, so take off 30 points. So he still scored 21 in 25 minutes, which I'm like really happy with. Like he's not going to be exciting. Like he's just going to be a really he's an Aldi Cam McInnes. Yeah, he's just going to be an Aldi Cam McInnes. He'll just churn through work. But at 320k, man, like you price at 32, like if he gets 50, like fuck, that's nearly 20 points of value. Like that's unreal. And yeah, I mean, it's tough with no Bateman, but you would expect Bateman to play 12 and Asuka Power to probably drop to the bench because he is quite versatile. And yeah, I mean, I'm actually pretty keen on Seyfarth.
Definitely. We'll keep a very close watch on him in the next trial. But two guys from the Warriors that we need to be talking about. One is Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, and we talked in length about the fact we weren't very interested, but fuck, he looked good.
We all have egg on our
very
face.
Good.
We all said his ownership makes no sense. What's going on? And yet I'm sitting here with him in my team right now as we speak, and it's just like, fuck, man, like the vibes through the roof.
Yep,
unreal. Didn't roam, which was the sad thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you wanted to see, isn't it, Matty? Like you want to see him kind of floating around in that Joey Manu role for the Roosters. You want to see him kind of chasing the ball and getting a bit more involved, and he did just sit on his edge. So is he of interest to you? Has he kind of piqued your interest?
He's piqued my interest, but he hasn't done enough yet to make me jump on him straight away. He's a tremendous talent. I think if anything happens to Chance Nickel-Clockstad and he's playing fullback, then I'm all in. Like, I'll move heaven and earth to get him in my team. But right now, in the centres, or maybe even the wing, I'm going to say no and I'm going to stay away. I'm just going to be patient. They give you trades for a reason. So, look, if he looks like he's going to average 80 after 3 weeks and he's 530k, then heck, yeah, by all means, I'm going to find a way to bring him in. But straight away, I'm not.
What do you have to see next week?
A
good combination
honestly,
of SJ?
Yeah, probably. Well, he'll be on SJ's side, correct?
I think SJ is the kind of guy
he'll
that
be on the other side. Yeah.
SJ will float. Like, I'm not expecting them to play split down the middle.
Look, I'm going to stay away for now. There is question marks, and like he comes into a Warriors side that is well established. There wasn't a ton of changes outside of some bench guys, and then he has a good game with Harris Tavita and Luke Metcalf, which I don't expect to be playing a lot of first grade this year. Look, I'm just not 100% sure that Tuivasa-Sheck is going to be better than a 600k player by the end of the year.
No, but if you're going the option of what we're discussing, like you've got about $6 spent in your front row forward combined, and you've already got a Taylor May, you've already got a Hamiso, or you've gone up to a Marzu, and you've got, if you've got like a Jack Bostock sitting 100%. There, and you got 300k left over, you like, man, the vibes. That's what I'm looking at.
You get 100%. How much are vibes worth in Supercoach? At least 25 points.
At least 12 points a half. So yeah, 24, 25 points.
I'm with you.
I'm not finding $1.2 million today to go Bostock to. Just give me a day or two. Seriously. I've already mortgaged my $2 million.
I thought I was struggling with Brayley to Appy. You're sitting here with fucking Caesar to
Cleary.
Leave me alone.
But you've got vibes. That's 25 points. And then when the Warriors play in those VB Bitter shirts, like RTS has got 50 points before the ball's even kicked.
Yep. I sent you guys a photo in that chat of that heritage jersey that they've got. Fuck, I'm going to cop one of those. They look very clean. They look very nice. I'll tell you who else looked very nice. Ali Leataua. That guy is a serious talent, man. Like I reckon he's going to be playing some first grade at some point this year. And there were rumors that RTS was going to play on a wing so that they could try and get Leataua in their team in the centers. I mean, I don't know whether that's accurate or not, but again, it's just a rumor at this point in time. But fuck, imagine if we see Leataua lay up in the center in the 4 or the 3, and then we see RTS named in a 2 or a 5 jersey to start in round 1.
I think they would have tried it. I think they would have tried it in a trial. Like, I think they would have tried it this week if it was genuinely a chance of happening, right?
I don't know whether they would have. Why wouldn't they try it when you've got your proper spine and you've got SJ there? Why wouldn't they do it next week?
I think the more realistic thing is he beats out Rocco Berry. That's probably the more realistic route, and they just play 2 split centers. Or Pompey. I think that's the other center.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a 3-way battle between Pompey and Lautiti and Berry. Yeah. And he was good. Like, he was really good in contact, really strong. We highlighted him in our Warriors preview. And I don't want to say I'm sitting there watching highlights of this kid. This was more of a, Warriors fans think he's pretty good. Let's chuck him in. And but Warriors fans are pretty good. Like he's good.
You know.
He's
Yeah, they know
really
their
strong
footy.
contact. The nephew of Aui Lauatiti, pretty good bloodline. Shout out Anton for that one. But yeah, some pretty good bloodlines to have there. And mate, 238k.
That's an extra 10 points. Bloodline.
Extra 15 points for bloodlines, 100%. That's why Jack Bostock's going to average 60. So
yeah,
100%.
I'm on that too. I like that.
But no, like 238k. Like we're not going to sit here and give you big in-depth details if he's named, obviously straight in.
Yeah, that's right. Let's move on to
Just
the Broncos.
like James Schiller 2 years ago.
Yeah, James Schiller.
Let's not bring up James Schiller again. Broncos 46, Cowboys 20. Matty, I'll throw the ball over to you, mate. You'd be pretty happy with this, seeing Reece Walsh just run amok as he normally does.
Yeah, it's hard to get too excited when you have a look at the team sheet for the Cowboys, but Reece Walsh is still Reece Walsh, in case anyone was wondering. So Braino went to the bench and Reece Walsh just took over. He was kicking in play. He was putting people through gaps and then also being there for support, kicking 40-20s. Like, he was phenomenal. Like, but then you have a look at the team they were playing and you're just like, well, look, he should be doing that. Yeah. It's the first week of trials. Yeah. But I'm more excited about Brendan Piakura, to be honest.
Oh, this is going to bring up some contention, I think, because we've had conversations around not being super keen on Piakura, and I think was it 12 base, Josh? If you take away his scoring.
Yeah, not ideal, but I just did want to highlight Reece Walsh pretty quickly. Shout out to him, number 2 in the NRL Roast Hottest 100, behind Herbie Farnsworth. Has he overtaken KP? Is he, not in terms of like playing ability, but is he like genuinely the biggest superstar in the game? Like in terms of like marketability and aura? Yep. Yeah, is he just the guy? Cool. Absolutely. He's overtaken KP. He's taking his Queensland jersey. He's taking his spot in the Roast Top 100, and it's all downhill for KP. He's washed.
He makes
KP
people
will just come out and average 120 this year in Supercoach. To take it back.
He makes people who aren't fans of rugby league watch rugby league.
100%.
He is our Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Ooh, good comparison.
Did you see the Batuta Advocate article about how Swift, old mate from Chermside's just sitting there going, these Swifties, these guys are over the top as they're feeding his dog in the Broncos dog bowl. Like, yeah.
Staffy. Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, like Piakura, like let's talk him, because we're gonna have to have some tough conversation. And I don't think Piakura is the kind of player where there's no in between with him. I feel like you're off him or you're on him. Like there's no middle ground here. So yes, he had 72 points, which is unreal in 40 minutes or however long he played. He had 2 tries. None of them were off kicks. So there's 27, 54 points plus 8 points for tackle breaks. So he's got 64 points in just attacking players. And at least 12 points in touched. Okay, so he scored 16 points in unattacking plays. Yep. So in Piakura's big games last year, when he's playing over, what minutes do you want to give him as a qualifier? 50?
Yeah, go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are his base numbers: 17, 24, 36, 34, 36, 47, 44. There is pure base.
But you're paying 440k for Sean Lane. What's his base?
Much better. It's about 54, 55 at his peak, like at his 2021 peak.
What we know from Sean Lane, from 2 years ago.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, he's a brilliant line runner. Can you point to me where being a good line runner gets you stats? Can you point to me where Boyd Cordner was a Supercoach gun? Like, Britton Nakora is probably the only one that like capitalizes on that, because he's playing with a half that can just feed him. Now, like, I don't think he's losing money. Like, he's obviously value. He's going to improve on his average. But, like, let's pump the brakes on this, like, 65-point average type shit that I'm seeing. Like, I don't think he is the best mid-range 2RF. I've been very vocal of that. But people are talking about, like, him, like he should be 100% owned. And I don't think it's that much of a slam dunk.
No.
He plays on the same team as Reece Walsh, so he's got everybody watching him for starters. But I think today, when I went on my when I started chipping away at my team to look for 900k or whatever was happening today, like going from Bo Firma to Piakura or doing something along those lines isn't a massive downgrade. I think Piakura is very viable as your second row forward 4.
Yes, not
for sure.
a 2. And people are treating him
Yeah.
like a 2. And that's my let's just calm down a little bit here, because at the end of the day, his draw is not great. It's the Roosters away in Vegas at a small field. We're already worried about the congestion of those fields.
Are the Roosters good?
Hey, mate, they just beat Manly. Didn't you see? They just put 36 on Manly. They're back. But I expect that Vegas game to be very, very cagey, because none of these guys are going to have trials next week. I could see a lot of them being snooze fests. They play Souths at home against Suncorp. That could be a good game, because Souths, yes, they won, but they weren't convincing.
Are they good?
They played the Penrith away. They played North Queensland at home, which we're not going to see the same North Queensland side. That was their C grade side. And then they play Melbourne away at Amy Park. It's not an amazing draw. And are we just expecting Cobbo to get no ball? Are we just going to be like, oh, hey, Cobbo, we've moved you to the left centre. You're going to get fuck all ball, and we're just going to feed Piakura?
I guess when you got Reece Walsh running,
I think over the first 7 weeks, the average is 53.
When you've got Reece Walsh and Mam and how often are they going to go out the back to Reece Walsh instead of hitting Piakura with a short ball through a hole? 9 times out of 10, they're going to be feeding Walsh out the back. So maybe he becomes that guy that just is that kind of decoy runner for that sweep play out the back on the left. And I'm a little worried. I honestly, most of the time when I see a performance like this, I'm like, oh, I'll just get him in my team. And I didn't do that after this game. So maybe that says something.
If there wasn't 4,000 other options, I'm not having the stance. But I just think there's so many other options. The base does worry me. But in saying that, the base of Reece Walsh worried me last year, and that worked really well for me by not owning him. So maybe just don't listen to what I want to say. But it's yeah, I don't know.
So anyway, Piakura is a fantastic option, apparently.
I'm keen. I'm not like, oh, he is the best 2RF at that price point. He's my 2RF2. I'm just not that high.
I agree. He's sitting there as my 2RF4. But so we're talking about the Broncos. They will be one of the best teams in the comp this year. I think.
Oh,
that's
biased.
fair
You
to
know what's
say.
about the Broncos, please? This is not a Broncos podcast, mate. Come on.
And then, sorry, I'm covering Kia. It's backwards when you're on camera. Sorry, I don't support Kia. But I think, yes, they'll go out the back to Reece Walsh a lot. But the trick play in going to Reece Walsh 4 times and everybody being so focused on Reece Walsh is you can just go the short ball to Piakura. And all eyes are on Reece Walsh. All eyes are on Reece Walsh. There's 54,000 people watching Reece Walsh at every Broncos game. That's where all the eyes are. I think there'll be plenty of opportunity, and it will come from attacking upside. And if you have to play Piakura, then great. At 420k, you're going to be playing him.
I just think it's funny how trials don't matter until it affects the guys that you like. And that's the funny thing about social media. Trials don't matter. Trials suck. No, who takes care of it? But it's your guy that scores 70 points. Oh, man, he's a stud. And what happens if he doesn't score 2 tries today and he finishes on 15 points after 30 minutes?
No one will say a fucking word.
That's the thing, though. That's why I'm just we got to pick a stance here.
Trials don't matter.
We had this conversation earlier. No one said anything about Jeremy Marshall-King scoring fucking 17 points today.
No one.
It's because they all went to Appy.
Yeah.
Flegler scoring 20 points. It's what happened to him, man? He was the guy for a bit.
No,
it's funny. Trials don't matter until it affects your team, and that's what I find funny.
100%. And I mean, look, if the Tigers lost today, yeah, we can talk about Jeremy Marshall-King because
it's a good day for Jeremy Marshall non-truthers.
Sorry, 13 points he got today. He had 9 run meters, 11 tackles, and 1 run. So
it's a good day to be a Jeremy Marshall hater.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you've got one up on us because I think Maddie and I have both had him in our team in the preseason so far, and now we've gone to Appy. So happy days. For me, is that enough to scare someone away? Now that we've got the Appy option, the hooker that's goal kicking.
I'm not the guy to ask. Probably
Maddie,
Mattrix needs to tune in here. I'm not the guy to ask about this.
He was playing against Gold Coast Titans under 14s today and scored 13.
Yeah. I don't really know whether there's much else to say, like especially because
Dolphins
now
also
the question
looked
marks.
really shit, didn't they?
Yeah, they look pretty ordinary, didn't they?
Awful.
They definitely.
Have a look at the team they rolled out. This is basic. Like, it's close to their starting lineup.
So you've got Hammer coming in for Fuller. It'll be a battle between New, VTW, and Avarillo. I mean, Bostock and Osaka will be your wings. Katoa and Sullivan will be your halves. Gilbert at 13. Aiken and Kafusi, that's not changing. Flegler, Nichols, and JMK. Like, two changes out of that side for the first 20 against, the Raiders, the Titans E-grade team. Wasn't great.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't good at all. But again, it's only trials, boys. It's only trials. Let's just calm down, all right? Look, I mean, maybe the one
We're
talking
convincing
point.
people to listen to us for an hour and 20. It's only trials.
It's only trials. Jack Bostock, like if he wins that wing spot, which he played pretty well. Like he's a tall boy. He played some pretty good footy. Like, do we think that Bostock gets it over Tessie New? Because maybe that's probably the toss-up at the moment, isn't it? These two competing for that spot.
I think Bostock starts, but are we concerned? Played the better part of 60 minutes, a try with a line break, and finishes on 46.
Yeah,
and
so
we're targeting
basically
that
no
really
base
good
at all.
draw on the weak side. Like the strong side's Herbie and Osako. So we're picking. Effectively, we're picking Isaiah Tass from the Rabbitohs on that shit side with a decent draw, and it's not like he's bottom dollar. He's like mid 300s.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: if you have Jermaine Osako in your team, are you fucking pressing abort very very quickly?
Elite team, like the minute that Herbie moved to the left, to the right, I'm straight off him.
You could get him for the vibes, though.
There's no vibes though when he doesn't get the ball.
He gets 3 ups a game. There's no vibes.
Hey,
He's going to be doing Fortnite dances out there on the edge.
I want to know, and he's in my team right at this second, how many points extra you get for being number 1 in the hottest 100? Because I have Herbie Farnworth in my centre wing right now, and I fucking really like it. I need someone to talk me out of it.
He looks
630k. 630k. I mean, it could be him. It could be Karaz around that price
Because
point.
he will just not pass the ball. Any set play Wayne designs up for Osako, it just stops Herbie. He's like, nah, fuck it. I'll do it myself.
But he's a good finisher. He's a big body. We saw it this afternoon. He just kind of walked over 3 blokes to score. Like, he does that more often than not. And he did it at the Broncos. And I guess the argument for him is that he's gone from a grand final team to the Dolphins, who probably won't make the 8. But I'll tell you what, how much ball is that edge going to get? Farnworth, Osako.
I can't talk. I wish I could, but I can't talk you out of it because it's like you were keen on Osako and I was keen on Osako, and he was like 130k more for the draw. Herbie's just gonna, he'll go looking for work, but he'll also like be involved in attack on that strong side. It's I'm keen. Let's chat about not Tom Gilbert. Let's chat about Tom Flegler. Because he was the preseason hype man, new club. Everyone thought he's going to play. He's going to do a Wilt Chamberlain and average more than 80 minutes a game. But like, this is so for anyone that has been following me for a long time, you would know I had a very anti-Jai Arrow stance in 2020 when he moved from the Titans to the Rabbitohs. He averaged 64 the year before, and everyone thought, Arrow's going to be a great buy in this system. And I just didn't see the minutes. And he averaged 56. So he had an 8-point drop off. I don't see an 8-point drop off with Flegler, but I just don't see the upside. Like I'm not seeing it at all. I think it's a 40-minute role. Mark Nichols played great. We saw, Jared Wallace just somehow manages to keep being good. You've got Colin Lemuelu off the bench as well. Like there is depth there, and I just don't see the minutes for Flegler to warrant the selection. Sorry to keep rambling, but we chatted about him, Braino, being, if anything, overpriced. Based off his historic 3 games finishing the season.
Yeah, he finished with a 78 and a 79 or something like that to finish the season. I think that was like 30 points above his average or whatever it was from last year. So that bumped his price up by 4 points. That's $40,000 at starting prices this year that he is overpriced based on that, if you take away those last 2 scores from last year. And then you look at his PPM over the last 4 years, 1.02, 1.02, 1.03, 1.06. So basically what we're backing is he needs to see an increase in minutes to be relevant. And the last 4 seasons, he's averaged 44, 42, 44, 44. So he needs to average 50 plus minutes this season to even gain you 50K, realistically.
Not everyone that moves clubs changes role. And we need to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Like Wayne Bennett has just bought him to be what he was at the Broncos. That's what I think. Like he is a great 40-minute guy. He'll give you his all. And that's all Wayne Bennett wants. I'm not seeing 13 to 15 minutes increase, especially with the bench they've got.
You might get 4 minutes increase, but what?
Are you buying him for 40,000? Like, you're not buying him because you want him to average
400K, we could have a discussion. I think if he was 400K, we could talk about it. But he's 480K. Spend that 80K elsewhere. He's a poor man's Sean Keppie. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Better mark that spot there for a clip during the week.
Yeah, we're going to clip that one. But yeah, what a weekend of footy. Like, it's so good to have it back more than anything. That's nice. The main thing. And so good to see Valence Tavade just ripping and a tearing.
Mm-hmm. No KFC, though, this year, which is very disappointing.
Hey, if no KFC is going to get you, 37 points in about 10 minutes, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Him playing 10 minutes in a full strength team might just say that casuals who hear VTW, who remember his Magic Round heroics, need to remember that he's probably not going to play that much first grade.
It's just people drinking the Brian Senior Kool-Aid.
That's good Kool-Aid, let me tell you that.
Oh, great when it's on.
Let's answer some questions in the live chat before we wrap this bad boy up, shall we? So we've got Flint asking, which 5'8" cheapie do we go to now as Caesar isn't kicking? Wasteland. And I tend to agree, but it's kind of KO weeks now, isn't it? Or Ethan Strange, whoever wins that spot.
Unless he's had Caesar as his 5'8", then you're in real fucking shit. It's time to rejig that team.
I think if Caesar's your 5'8" too, like just remember I had him as my halfback, which is a wasteland. I think still Caesar could be better than KO weeks for 70K
without
more.
the goal kicking.
I don't think you're panicking. Yeah, even without the goal kicking, I don't think you're panicking that much. He looked good.
Yep.
Like I hate to be the voice of reason. I'm never that guy.
Telling us to pick a Tigers halfback, even though they don't have the kicking. That is incredibly responsible.
I mean, boys, I know you laughed at me.
Instead of KO weeks, that might not.
I know you laughed at me, but a solid 24-point outing from our boy Isaiah Katoa today.
Hey, and we were just talking about the fact that it was Katoa to Farnworth for that try. So you just never know.
Is that the new Ezra man? Is he the new Ezra?
Oh, fuck.
In all seriousness, though, if he is your 5'8" I probably would just suggest rejigging your side.
Just get Dylan Brown.
Yeah, or Tom Dearden if you have to just not go super premium. Otherwise, like, I'm just looking here. Like, I filtered it by 200K to 400K, and I'm like, do you just go Trindle? Like, I know it's
I'd probably say that's the next option. Honestly, I'd say Trindle might be the next option. You're looking at everybody panic when Jaden Campbell was said that he's not starting the season. Everyone's like, fuck, I'm just going to have to get Dylan Brown. Well, you don't necessarily have to. I'd recommend you do, but you don't have to. There are other options.
Probably your next best bet, and then maybe Trindle. I'd find the cash for Dearden, but if he's your 5'8" rejig, if he's your 5'8", and you can somehow get Appy, playing weeks round 1 is not the worst thing in the world, and then just bring in Appy as your next option after.
Yep. Paul Thorne was asking about Jamin Salmon, the weak gutted dog. We had a couple of weak gutted dog comments in the chat. He played well in the game, dual position pod. Let me ask you this. Sorry, better question. If we see round 1, he gets named in the 13 jersey to start, and we see Curran on an edge, does Jamin Salmon become relevant then?
No movement. Insert that sleepy Shaq meme. That's just me. Like, he played great. He scored 31. Like, he was just a poor man's Victor Radley in terms of Supercoach. Like, he was just a shoveler, engaged the line okay. Unfortunately, engaging the line and looking cool doesn't really get you Supercoach points. So for me, it's a no. What position is he? That's more important. Like, I haven't even looked at what he is.
2 RF CTW. I would assume.
If he's 2 RF CTW and you're looking at him for CTW, then there's another Bulldog asset I'd probably just prefer.
So why don't you just get Karaz, you get Zeri, you get Hutchison, and then you just get 7, and you just have 4 Bulldogs in your centre wing.
Oh, 100%. And then you got Max King and Sam Hughes up top.
Yep.
And then Reed Meyer's really good. He passed the eye test. And Jacob Preston's a lock for 80 minutes. So how can you not? No, in all seriousness, if you're going to have the money for a Bulldogs asset, I'd rather just take Hutcho at centre wing.
Yep. Good shout. I like it. Troy Vickers, friend of the show, wants to know, how many set and forgets do you aim at versus cash gen? Is it the year of the mid-ranger? Matty, I'll leave this one to you. How many at the moment in your team do you have as guys you just put there and hope they last the season?
I probably have 5 or 6 guys that I'm hoping last the season. Like, the great thing about Supercoach is you get some of these mid guys, and they could just last you the season. Like, if I still have Sean Lane at the end of the year, I'm not going to be disappointed. If I still have a Max King, if I still have an Appy Coruscant, you get these guys hoping that they are nearly set and forgets. And when it doesn't work out, you just have to pivot and you have to roll with the punches. So I think that you want 5 primos. I'd rather call them primos than set and forget, because they're not really set and forget. They're let's ride them for now and see what happens. But I'm paying up for it. I'm going to have a big punt. And I think these guys are guys that will score us a lot of points. So 5.
What about yourself, Josh? Do you agree?
Yeah, I've got 5 guys over 700k right now. I've got 1 guy at 600k, 2 guys at mid 500s, and then a bunch of 400s. But yeah, set and forget's probably not the best term to use, because would you be surprised to see Sean Bloor average 61 and he be your 2RF number 6 by the end of the season? No. So yeah, in terms of primos, like Mattrix said, I've got 5 as well.
Yeah,
they're in the key positions. I'm not looking at a primo hooker or a primo front row forward or a primo 2RF. I'm just looking at double gun halfback, gun 5/8, double gun fullback.
And also the game's changing. We've got weekly buys now that we didn't have 2 years ago. So you do have to be flexible with trades. Origin obviously plays a big part. A lot of us traded out Nico or traded out Cleary during Origin last year. So
Fafita.
And Fafita, guys like that you would consider to be and that was a massive mistake. You'd consider to be a set and forget, right? These guys, but you can kind of manipulate your team if you're looking at the schedule, you're looking at buys. So yeah, set and forget, maybe not so much, but I guess, maybe premium is the better question. Skitty is disappointed that we've been live for 12 minutes at the start of the show and you hadn't finished at least 2 beers yet. So
actually,
very disappointing. Hey, we're nearly done. Hold on. Corey Blackledge is in the chat asking us how to pick an NRL Supercoach team. So he's played a bit of NBL and all the other Supercoach sports, but new to NRL. And obviously with the World Cup coming up, everyone's going to rip in, which is great. And we're going to do a beginner podcast episode that are going to cover all of the basics that you need to know to put together a decent team and to understand NRL as opposed to the other sports and the tactics that we implement to get ahead of the pack, I guess. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be coming up very soon. Mark's in agreement with us that the Raiders cheapies are a no-go zone. We just have to wait and see who gets the gig at the start of the season, I think, on that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no-go. I think more just less slam dunk than we originally thought.
For sure. Especially at the ownership, isn't it? You got Ethan Strange is the most owned player in the game at the moment. We don't even know.
Which is not, I think he's the most risky one.
He's going to be named in round 1, so just wild. Now, we spoke a little bit of South playing Vegas players next week. We can kind of naturally assume they probably won't with Vegas being so quick.
Unless Demetrio just fucking hates them and says, all right, you can play 80 and then jump on a plane for fucking 2 days.
That's a long plane trip too. Definitely not advised, I don't think. Aman was live about half an hour ago, wasn't he? Appy season. Shout out to Aman. Definitely on board with the Appy call. Fisher doesn't rate our good draw for the Tigers shout. Thinks it's a bit of a stretch. Now
I can understand.
I'm with you 100%. Getting a bit carried away here. But in saying that,
good draw, I guess on paper and in theory, it's the best draw you can have. But obviously, yes, factoring in that the Tigers are putrid, then yes, we can understand.
Can you guys take your headphones off for a second? Because I just want to let everybody know that quite often shit teams make really good targets for Supercoach. That is why I have X amount of cheap Bulldogs because they had to rotate through a few guys because it didn't work last year. The same with the Tigers. They're rotating some guys and they're going to try some things this year. Like, it's very hard to get really good cheapies on really good teams. So that's why we're having extensive chats about the Bulldogs. That's why we're having extensive chats about who's going to be the winger for the Dolphins, and the same with the Tigers. Like, yes, we could sit here and talk about how good the Warriors are, how good the Broncos are. We very rarely bring up Penrith. Do you want to know why? Not much has changed, and there's not that many Supercoach targets that you don't need to...
Do you want Scott Sorensen? Because that's what he is. Like,
Yeah.
It's what you get on the tin.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
In saying that,
so
Matrix, you make
so
a
we're
really
going to
good point.
talk about these bad teams.
Yeah, I was going to say, you make a really good point. I'm looking at the top 4 from last year. I have 1 Penrith, no Broncos, 1 Storm, who's a mid-ranger, not even a premium, who's moved from the Tigers, and at the moment 2 Warriors, but RTS is who knows. So yeah, it's hard because these good teams are good, but their players are also good, and they're priced to be good. And I don't have that money right now. So yes.
And that's the difference between an NRL podcast. Sorry, Braino. The difference between an NRL podcast and an NRL Supercoach podcast. Like, if you want a Panthers Wankfest, then yeah, it's not here.
Plenty of podcasts that'll give you that.
Yes. Hey, maybe at the back end of the season we'll have another one when Nathan Cleary wins a Supercoach or something. But
one of us is 50k richer.
50% owed. Yeah.
Speaking of bad teams, we've got one more question from 404 Error Page. That's a good one. Is Curran a fade given the way Salmon played as a link forward and perhaps only getting 50 to 60 minutes at a PPM of 0.85? What do you reckon? I mean, we kind of spoke about this a little bit. Let's say Curran gets named on an edge. Are we still interested? I asked, are we interested in Salmon, but are we still interested in Curran on an edge?
I mean, I think there's a higher likelihood of Curran being benched than on an edge. Like, Kikau's not being moved, Preston's not being moved. I don't know. Like, I just think this is a case of Jamin Salmon beating up on a second-rate side, which is great. You can only play what's in front of you. I understand that. But, I mean, yeah, Josh Curran has spoken openly about him playing 13, and I don't think one 40-minute performance against Melbourne's B-side is going to change Geraldo's mind. If it does, well, fuck. We've got 4,000 options to pick from. It's not like we're short of options. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not too concerned. I've got Curran pegged at maybe 60 minutes, rotating between prop, edge, link.
60's fine for me. If you get 60, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to ask this question to you, Josh, and I'm not going to answer this one either, but Mattrix is Luke Brooks an option? Mitchell wants to know.
Can you put up the 10 in the bin gif? Because, like, honestly, like, I am all on board with you guys. Like, Daly Cherry Evans hasn't died. I know he's getting a little bit older, but Luke Brooks is not going to be an option at all, to put it politely. I don't understand the ownership that he's currently at. I expect that to come in a little bit and just rein in, but I think it's exciting and it's a great move for football. But Luke Brooks has never been a Supercoach option, and moving to Manly doesn't fix that.
Mate, didn't you see 3 try assists against Braden Burns' daycare last week?
Hey, I'm all for it.
Let's go. Like I said, I think he's priced at his max at 55. I always refer back to Kieran Foran averaging 48 when Turbo scored 150. People are like, oh, well, Turbo is going to do wonders. I mean, Foran didn't average 50. So, yeah.
It's a good call. Anthony McElroy asking about Lob from the Tigers, goal-kicking winger.
Get behind this one.
Yep, I'm all for this. I mean, look, if he finds his way into the team,
huge.
He'll find his way into my team too.
Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Alexander Lobb, New South Wales Cup Player of the Year for the Dragons last year, moved to the Tigers. Huge. He's a big boy, big winger, big rangy winger. Similar build to like a Daniel Tupu, like just a broad, tall guy and can kick goals. So, I mean, I'm very happy to trade Appy out if Lob becomes viable because a goal-kicking winger, yes, it's for the Tigers, but still, definitely an option at bottom dollar.
But I don't want him to kick goals because I want Appy to kick.
Of course we do. Of course we do.
It's yeah.
Of course we
do. Mr. CBB, one of the NBL show followers, Matty, How much is in the bank for you? He's asking.
$97,600. I will probably rein that in.
Yeah, you still
I'll
need
spend
another
that.
600,000 to get to Cleary.
No.
So.
I have Cleary now. I am
Okay.
no longer a Payne Haas
So
owner.
he's got one of those Supercoach Central teams that's just got like a bench full of rookies that we've never heard of.
Viliami
Viliami Fafita.
the GOAT.
Yep. What a player.
For me, it's 75.9, and that's with a rejig team today, and that's with Terrell May and Sam Hughes as my 1 and 2 front row forwards.
Yeah, I've only got 33.8, but that's with Cotter and Kepi in the front row. So I could go Cotter down to someone in the 400s, which is probably
you
the
actually
move if I need
joking with
cash.
the Kepi Kool-Aid? He's in?
Yeah, he's in, 100%.
Oh,
I had to
baby.
do it because Hamo told me to, and I can't go back on the Kep goat, as he calls him.
He pays our bills.
He does.
Yes.
Guys, we've answered all the questions. That'll do. It's been an hour 40 marathon on the trials. We'll come at you again Sunday evening next week and talk probably more relevant trials next week. I think we're probably going to see something a little bit closer to what we'll see in round 1 next week. So stay tuned for that one. We've also got some pods coming up on the centre wing and the fullback position. So they'll be coming out in the next week, along with a beginner podcast for all of you asking a lot of questions around how you can get started playing NRL Supercoach. That'll be coming at you as well as a couple of others. And then we've got TLT in like fucking 9 days, which is just insane. So very exciting times. I can hear Matty breathing quite heavily at the thought of getting 6 Broncos into his team. So that'll be fun. Yes. But guys, that'll do us. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and we'll see you for the next episode. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.
Cheerio.